With this whole pandemic completely shutting down all movie theaters and completely shutting down all summer blockbuster releases, I decided to go ahead and give my top 10 comic book movies of all time. So let's talk comic book movies. Hi, my name is Joe Marco of Marco's Movies, helping you learn more, know more, and talk more about movies. On this channel, I rate, review, and I rank movies. So if you enjoy this video, please consider clicking that subscribe button. And let me know down in the comments what's your favorite and least favorite comic book movies of all time. And let me know any other video suggestions you guys want me to do. But with that all being said, let's actually start talking these movies. And at my number 10... So yes, I did cheat a little bit with my number 10 pick. I couldn't decide which one of these was my favorite animated comic book movie of all time. But yes, these are the only two ones on this list. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse just has such a fun, tasteful flavor. It will make you just happy. And it also has some really hard emotions to it with what happens to the Morales character. But Mask of the Phantasm, I mean, this was the best Batman movie for quite some time. I am a huge fan of the TV series, the animated show, and I just have so much fun with that movie. And these are by far two of my favorite comic book movies of all time, and I couldn't decide which one I liked more. Say what you want about the DCEU, but in my opinion, they got Man of Steel right, and in my opinion, I think they got it perfectly. Now, I did not grow up with the Christopher Reeves, Superman movies. I acknowledge them and I respect them for what they did with the blockbuster genre, as in my opinion, Star Wars and Superman the movie are the two movies that revolutionized the modern day blockbuster. But there's just something about Man of Steel. The tone, the color palette, everything. It's like the Logan, but for Superman. It's not your general Superman movie. It's not your happy-go-lucky Superman movie like the Christopher Reeves one. Superman was depressed. Clark Kent was depressed. He didn't want to show his powers. He didn't want to go help civilization. He just wanted to be an average guy. And his powers started to get to him. It's almost like he didn't even want his powers. He wanted them to go away. He felt unnormal. He felt unwanted. He felt all that. And it really resided with me. And say what you want about Christopher Reeves, I think Henry Cavill is the most perfect casting on the face of the planet. I can't see another person ever playing Superman better than Henry Cavill. And he just looks the part. I mean, that man is Superman, and I don't think you could get better than that. Talk about just a fun comic book movie. You can't get better than Thor Ragnarok. First of all, the color palette, the tone, everything. It's so vivid. It's so beautiful to look at. On 4K, you just have orgasmic, things just looking at this movie. And what Taika Waititi did with the Thor character, specifically the Thor movies, in my opinion, was perfect. Thor needs to be a little fun. Thor doesn't need to be the super serious guy. Yes, he's gone through a lot of tragedies in his life, but where Taika Waititi took this character, he went far away from Thor and Thor the Dark World, and he made it more fun. He made it more likable. He made it have a flavor is what he did. And obviously the cameo with Hulk, I do hate that the trailers ruined Hulk being in this movie. I think the only reason they did that is so they could actually make money off this movie. But overall, this was honestly one of the most fun comic book movies of all time. And honestly, not my most rewatched Marvel film, but definitely one that I come back to very, very often. V for Vendetta is the most recently watched comic book movie I've seen, as I literally just saw it yesterday, and my God, was I blown away. I think this will eventually go higher and higher and higher up on my list because it was just that good. Just the overall tone and the amazing performances, and they just bring a smile to my face. And the action scenes, while there isn't many in this movie, they're so awesome to see. I think they're some of the best action scenes that DC has ever produced, as it's directed by the Wachowski brothers, who also did The Matrix, and you could just see it with the slow-mo cam at the very last action scene. It's just amazing to watch. Like I said, this movie will just blow you away, and it doesn't need every action scene every 2 seconds of the movie. You'll be more invested with the political aspect and the political satire this movie has to offer, more than the action scenes, which is saying a lot in a comic book movie. When I said Thor Ragnarok was my most rewatched Marvel film, I thought of this one because this is by far my most rewatched comic book movie of all time. I watch this movie probably once every month, honestly, since this came out. I absolutely love this movie. It hasn't gotten old for me. And talk about perfect casting. Ryan Reynolds portrays Deadpool perfectly. I can't see anyone else. Just from the third wall breaks to the tone to the overall vibe he gives as Deadpool, I think it's just absolutely played perfect. As well as, this is the type of movie, it's going to make you laugh and it's going to make you cry. And then it's going to make you laugh while you're crying at the same time. And I just got to say, I really like this movie. Yes, it has some tonal issues and I can see that. But I think having a very emotional aspect as well as the comedic aspect actually blend together really well with the character of Deadpool. Kind of showing, yes, he's had this very big tragedy in his life and he's had all this shit go wrong. But he almost sees it as funny. And I don't know. I just kind of like that. Now, this movie is very hard for me to place because this could easily be your favorite comic book movie of all time or like your fifth favorite comic book movie of all time. This movie is generally accepted by all audience and critics and was generally a really well-received movie. But what holds this movie back are the action scenes. I'm the type of person, I like long takes, wide shots, I could see everything that's going on. And there is those in this movie, but a lot more of the more important stuff, very close up, you can't see what's going on in the background. But that's really the only flaw I have with this movie. Other than that, I think this movie is tonally and just played out perfectly from the amazing cast. I mean, all these characters, what Marvel's doing with bringing every single one of these characters and actually bringing them together and actually making it work and not making everyone overpowered, it's really amazing. I don't think any other villain could have done better than Thanos in this movie. He is literally the Darth Vader of the 21st century. I don't think we're going to get any other better villains in this until 3000. We're not going to get a better villain than Thanos because he has such a force and such a presence, and he was literally teased for 6 years, and my god, was it worth those 6 years of teasing. Thanos was a badass. This movie is badass. I just wish that the action was a little more wide, especially with how much shit goes on in this movie. This movie deserves way more recognition than it gets. Spider-Man 2 was honestly maybe one of the most revolutionary comic book movies of all time. This Spider-Man and X-Men were all really revolutionary for the comic book genre. But just what they did with Spider-Man 2, they took what worked with Spider-Man 1 and expanded it. They expanded the universe. They added a better villain. And some days I do prefer Spider-Man 1, but seeing the technical action scenes and just how Spider-Man, just that train sequence alone says it all. This movie is better than Spider-Man 1. Some days, like I said, I prefer Spider-Man 1, but my god, Spider-Man 2 it's so much fun. It's wacky, it's quirky, but it's also serious at the same time. And you truly feel bad for Peter Parker. Sam Raimi directs this movie perfectly. I think you couldn't have gotten a better director to make this, as he's a big fan of these Spider-Man comics. So put him together with Tobey Maguire, you get Spider-Man 2. And in my opinion, Tobey Maguire is Spider-Man, and yeah, I just love Spider-Man 2. Now, before I even get into Captain America Winter Soldier, I'll be honest, this and Civil War were having such a big battle. Just like that airport sequence in Civil War, they were having such a tough battle. They were just like pounding each other. But Winter Soldier did pull out for me. Just the spy-esque aspect and seeing the emotional aspect between Bucky and Captain America, how, they were best friends, and now, Bucky is just far gone, but Cap is still trying to show him that he's still a human being, and it emotionally pays off, especially watching the first one. But this movie can stand alone as its own film. You don't need to watch the first one. And honestly, that sequence when Captain America skydives with Black Widow and all those fucking guys onto that boat and are just messing stuff up, that might be my favorite Marvel sequence of all time. It's just the spy vibe, and god, it's just, you take what was good about the Captain America First Avenger, wiped away the bad stuff, and just you tonally shifted it to a spy freaking movie, and I think it just worked perfectly for the character of Captain America, and it made Captain America my favorite Marvel character. This movie single-handedly did that. talk about a movie that's super depressing but also so awesome at the same time. As this movie's rated R, and the freaking action in this movie is true to that rating. There's scenes where Wolverine just puts his claws up to a guy's face and freaking does that, and his claws come out. Oh my god. It's so much fun to watch that. And obviously the ending sequence when freaking Hugh Jackman just goes full berserker mode and has the juice in him. It's not juice, it's just steroids. And he's just running around and... oh, it's awesome to watch. It's so much fun. And it's so emotionally investing. And you get such a great emotional payoff with the ending of this movie, watching all the X-Men movies. But realistically, you can watch this movie on its own. This is its own film. It tells you the story of basically every X-Men movie without even telling it. You're focused on the story of Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart's characters of Wolverine and Professor X, and just seeing the stages they are in life. Just Wolverine's just this broke down, lost soul who turns out to have a special person in his life that he's never known about, and she reveals to him that his opinion on what X-Men and what he was, a monster, isn't true, and that they're really the heroes. And it's just so awesome to see, and that ending made me cry, tears of pure just depression. And then I watched it again, and God, I love Logan. Logan was so close to topping my number one. What held it back from being my number one pick is the Doctor bad guy character. He's literally useless. He does one thing in the movie, which leads to an even better villain, and yeah, he's useless. I don't like that villain at all. But number one, let's just get to it. Yes, I cheated again with my number one pick. I put both Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, mainly because, first off, Batman Begins is my number one comic book movie of all time. I prefer Batman Begins to The Dark Knight. I respect The Dark Knight. If you enjoy The Dark Knight more, I completely understand. Trust me, it's a better movie in my opinion, but I prefer Batman Begins. The Dark Knight would be in the third place on this list. So I just put them together because I wanted to put Captain America, Winter Soldier there, and the other movies there as well, because I wanted to have one franchise, but I couldn't keep out either of these movies. First of all, Batman Begins. You're going over the badass origin story and the most perfect origin story of Batman we've ever gotten. Christian Bale is Batman. He portrays the character perfectly, from being, Bruce Wayne, to being how Bruce Wayne actually is with Alfred, to actually being the badass vigilante Batman. And then obviously you get the badass Cillian Murphy and Liam Neeson, two really good actors to play Scarecrow and the other villain, and they clash together perfectly. And I think they're the two most underrated villains in this series. And then you get Heath Ledger's Joker and The Dark Knight, and it takes what Batman Begins did and just cranks it up a notch, and you get better characters, you get better chemistry, you get better all that, you get better emotional payoff. And these movies I watch one of the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight movies every month, I would say. I watch a different one, and they never get old for me. Now, Dark Knight Rises, I think, is a couple notches below both of these, but you can include that on this list. Dark Knight Rises might be ahead of Thor Ragnarok on this list. And this is just, in my opinion, maybe the best movie trilogy of all time. And there just isn't a better comic book movie, in my opinion, than Batman Begins. But thank you guys all for watching this video of me ranking my top 10 comic book movies of all time. Like I said, comment down below your list for your top 10 comic book movies of all time. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I hope you guys all have amazing days. Thank you all for tuning in for this video. And as always, keep watching movies.